Boat maintenance, it seems, almost always involves getting down on your hands and knees. And whether your decks are teak or fiberglass, after a while your knees are going to ache. They don't have to. Hey there, I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I'll share the handy bit of gear we kept on board to keep our knees from killing us as we worked on the boat. Now, today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Mantis Marine, makers of the Mantis Anchor, now available in models with and without a roll bar. Proven to set reliably in the most challenging bottoms, the Mantis Anchor digs in like no other. Believe me, it's saved our butts several times, makes anchoring safer and boating more enjoyable. Mantis also brings to market practical, durable, and affordable products like their anchoring gear, their new dinghy, scuba diving accessories, rechargeable waterproof headlamp. I actually own 2 of those. Also, they've got my absolute favorite solar charging nav light, which is great for dinghies. You can get a red and green one and a white light one. Makes you perfectly legal everywhere. Visit mantismarine.com and see for yourself all of their goodies. Okay, so how can you save your knees when you're working on the boat? When we bought our first cruising boat, we were a little surprised to open a locker and find a pair of basketball knee pads. I mean, the previous owner was tall, but I never saw a ball or anything. Was he really out playing all the time? Well, we soon learned that we needed to change the oil, redo the Sea-Tall, later Semco, work on the engine, put away canned goods, work on the windlass, and so much more. We also learned that knee pads were a great idea, but we were both less than enthusiastic about the basketball-style ones that had been left aboard. They tended to slide down whenever we stood, and they dug in uncomfortably when we kneeled. Well, they weren't really designed for what we were doing. They were designed for standing and playing basketball. We eventually got a different and much better pair in a Mexican hardware store. Of course, that pair stayed on Cape Hall when we sold her. One of our very first trips to Home Depot to get things for Barefoot Gal, our second boat, Dave spotted a similar pair of knee pads to the good ones, and he stuck them in the cart. It was an absolute great call. He used them a number of times while we were still in the yard and when kneeling on deck to check things out. I used them as I kneeled on deck to rejuvenate our windows. Kneeling even on a smooth surface gets hard on the knees. And believe me, I've had a bunch of knee surgery, which doesn't help the situation any. Kneeling on non-skid is downright painful right from the start. Trying to troubleshoot our engine woes, helping rebuild the diesel later in that first year, those knee pads saw even more use, and we praised them every time. I asked Dave just a minute ago, would he recommend the ones that we got? And his answer was a resounding yes. His reasons: these had 2 elastic straps, top and bottom, instead of the big sort of sleeve. They made it easier to get a comfortable fit than the ones with just one big connector between the 2. Single strap ones tend to fall down or be too tight that they're uncomfortable. The hard outside surface holds up really well on the rough non-skid, and it doesn't leave any marks. One size fits all means that we can both use the same pair. They can also be worn over jeans or just on bare legs. And that's pretty important because the weather changes tremendously over the course of the year working on a boat. And for what we had been doing on the boat, the foam padding was sufficient and much less expensive with the ones with gel padding. It's also a lot lighter weight. Gel padding tends to be called professional grade or labeled as being for flooring professionals, plumbers, carpenters, things like that. As I said, they're considerably less expensive to have foam padding, so we thought it was okay. The ones we got are made by a company called McGuire Nicholas and are available at Home Depot for about $15. We've put a link to Home Depot so you can exactly see them. It's in the show notes. You can get very similar ones on Amazon, and we also put a link to those in the show notes. I actually kind of think that the ones on Amazon are maybe better because it's a clip instead of Velcro, and we frequently had to clean the the dirt and grime out of the Velcro, because whatever we were working at seemed like would produce, sanding dust or just pick up lint, whatnot, and having a clip would be easier. We both prefer using knee pads to having a carpet scrap or an old pillow because they moved around with us. We did use a piece of carpet or an old pillow rescued from the dumpster to pad our back and ribs when we were working in open lockers and leaning on a hard edge at the opening and so forth. But for our knees, actually, we preferred the knee pads. Okay, hope you learned something from this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast. Tell your friends about us, and absolutely, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, we hope that we are helping you make your boat life better.